is the property tax report card, and of course that includes the total budget. So that includes your what you're budgeting and your levy. So if you accept this, then you're accepting everything. So the budget, we have it at 11,096,764. That's a 0.74%, 0.74% decrease. So our budget is actually going down. And then the levy, of course, because of the pilot coming off and ending and coming into our levy, the levy is actually going up 12.78%. So the levy is the 3,392,089.
I'm going to stop just for a second,
yep.
And maybe you were going to say this, but just so that everybody remembers, over 300,000 of that is the pilot money from Irving. And if I stole your thunder, Charlene, I'm sorry, but I just want to make sure every time that increase in the levy goes out to people, they know that. I think it's about 305,000 of that 385,000 is due to the Irving pilot.
Right.
And the other 80 or so thousand dollars is due to carryover that we're allowed to get in levy this year because our budget failed last year.
Because of the contingency, right?
But the
you can see the 83,047. You don't get all of that, but that's what we were not able, to levy, last year. We were below the cap, so because we had to stay at the same levy as the prior year. So yep. So all in all, looking really good. It just gives you this consumer price index, which tells people that it wasn't anywhere near 2%. It was I think the second lowest consumer price index, which tells you, your cap, which you can go out at. There's a lot of other factors, obviously, but that is one of the factors that is used in the tax cap calculation. So very low again this year. Didn't give schools a lot of opportunity to increase their tax levies, but that's fine. That's fine because we were able to put a good budget together regardless of that. So, if you just want to go down a little bit, unless anybody has any questions. So this is our estimated restricted fund balance. We are going to be putting some of our excess fund balance, from this year into our reserves and get our reserves back to where they, not back to, but trying to get them closer back to where they were 2 years ago, before we had to use them for our paying back our liability to the county and also balancing our budget last year. So we pretty much exhausted all reserves that we had. I think we have one small reserve, insurance reserve for like 27,000, and everything else is gone. So, we do have a little bit in our EVLR too. So, so that's your unrestricted fund balance. And so we are going up a little bit. It is going up to 10% instead of 6%, but I think that's very good and very healthy and really positions us for the future, to be safe for the future, and to have that if we do need to go to it. So in the future, we're not going to be seeing these federal, I don't think we'll be continuing to see these federal monies, and therefore New York State is going to have to also, isn't going to continue to see federal monies and is going to have to find the money to continue to fund the foundation aid formula over the next 2 years, as the legislature has promised in this year's budget. They promised to fully fund the foundation aid formula over the next 3 years, and New York State's going to have to come up with that money because they're not going to get it from the Fed. So moving down.
Charlie, I'm going to jump in one more time. Sorry, I'm going to do this a few times. So I want to reiterate and stress that we're building this budget looking at 5 years. Because a lot of folks are concerned about maybe how this budget fits into the larger picture for our school district. This budget's being built to support our school district for next year and years to come. So we have to refund those reserves, because having those reserves is the only way we made it through the current year. So I just want to put it, you have to refund those. So if you have another year like we had to have, unfortunately, that money is there for us to be able to access. And we're trying to work hard so that we don't have the yo-yo years. And part of that is making sure that we put money back in these reserves. Part of that is making sure that we have an appropriate amount of fund balance, so that when we have a tough year like last year, we have the money to draw on to get us through. And we didn't necessarily have enough last year to put us where we wanted to be, as you all know, based on all the reductions we had to make. So,
right, which is why we had to use the reserves, which, you know, isn't necessarily what you want to do. You want your reserves to be stable. So last year, if you remember right, we used all of our workers' comp reserve and all of our unemployment insurance reserve. This year, we're going to use a little bit of fund balance. I think if you move back up, it's about 108, 109,000. And that's, again, to stabilize. You know, we used, I think, what did we use last year from our reserves? Let me see, we used like 84,000 from the reserve.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to keep things level and stable. So if we use about 110,000 of our fund balance, it's kind of what we used out of the reserves last year. So, but our workers' comp rate went up substantially this year. So we definitely need to fund our workers' comp reserve so that when it does go up crazy like this, we'll have that workers' comp reserve to go to. Unfortunately, we don't right now. The unemployment insurance reserve, as you know, unemployment this year was just really, really crazy because of COVID and everything. And so again, we had some unexpected costs there. So you want to have the unemployment insurance reserve funded. So if you go down to the bottom, as you can see, our actual balances as of 3/31, we have that insurance reserve. Sorry. We have that mandatory debt service reserve, which we have to use that to pay back debt. And then we have the EBLR 100,000, which is your employee benefit accrued liability reserve. Now we're using that. We're using that when people retire, and that's a good thing, because then again, you don't have highs and lows. And when people retire, you know, did you plan for it? Didn't you plan for it? And if it's a surprise, so this is nice to, you know, use that's what it's there for. You use it and then you replenish it. So we need to get that back up when you look at future retirements, and you can base it on your accrued liability, which is on the financial statements. You can have in your EBLR reserve up to the amount of your accrued liability. And our accrued liability increased a little bit at the end of the last year, looking at the financial statements. So we want to make sure we have enough in there. So we're still not fully funding it, but I wanted to put a good chunk in there and get it back up. So on my other spreadsheet, if you can find that one quick, Tom, Dan, it actually has the, I saw Tom come into the meeting and that was in my head. I think I actually have, do you have that spreadsheet out there where I compared the fund balance one, where I showed, you know, the prior year was yellow and gray?
Yep, I think so. I just want to make one comment on the EBLR.
Yep.
So you have, I think we have 40, between 40 and 44 teachers this year. And you have greater than half of them on top step, which means they're at year 20 or farther along than year 20. And when those folks retire, and the same is true for your support staff, there's an amount of money they can get for their unused sick leave. So when you talk about 20 people leaving, even if each of those folks don't get to the maximum and they're only going to get $20,000, 20 times 20,000 is 400,000 very quickly. You can see how your EBLR could take a hit in a hurry. We don't have that many that look like they're projected to retire next year, but you want to have a healthy balance in there so you're not pulling away from programs for young people to pay this. So I just want to, I'm just interjecting a little bit, Charlene, sorry.
If you show my spreadsheet, if you can find it, the compensated absences on the last financial report were $969,096. So, you know, that's a lot of money to have a liability for, and you want to have a reserve to cover that. So
the other two that we had put in the finance committee folder were the tax cap and budget.
It might not be in there. It was maybe we had it in there from before, I thought. It's well, if we can't find it, that's okay. We can maybe find it after, but it's the fund balance projection, or because it was called reserves, but I can maybe find it. We can pull it up if we can't find it right now. There it is. You're so good.
I told you I would find it.
Ah, you're so good. So if you blow that up a little bit, so I put in the last column what our reserves were June 2019. So you can see we're still, you know, 300,000 less than we were then. So And again, this is just an estimate. We could change it, tweak it a little bit. We'll look at our fund balance in June, and that's when we'll decide how much we're going to move in. So a board resolution to fund the reserve, about 735,000 is what I'm recommending. And we'll do those resolutions in June once we see our March and April and May financials and see what we have left in reserve. So, or what we have left in our fund balance, so that we can fund those reserves. But you can see the compensated absences in the second column for Evelar is on 969,000. So it's not fully funded at 573, but we can get there over time. So we don't need to do it all at once. So, but again, we're going to be moving from the 6%, around 6% to around 10%. I think that's healthy and safe. And so I think that's it on the property tax report card.
I'm going to interject two things. And so remember last year when we put the budget together, we were concerned about a reduction in state aid. And so we didn't reduce our budget to do that, but we did have that 6% there. Certainly the reduction did not come through, thank goodness, because we didn't have enough money to make it if that had actually occurred. The other on this, worth saying, this is my 5th year here, that 864.00 tax certiorari, it is nice to know that we don't have any outstanding claims at this time that we have to put money away for. Although I would, the board knows, the finance committee knows, that we do want to pay very close attention to what occurs with Irving over the next couple of years as they come out of the pilot. But it's nice to be able to say, one, legally you're not allowed to put any money in there, and two, right now there are no claims where we would be asking you to put money in there come the end of June.
Yep, that's a good thing. So you can see we got a good plan here to fund our reserves, a good plan to fund the one retirement that we do know about, and start to get our reserves back to where they were in 2019 and before. So those
actually we'll do I think it's important to do this every time we have a finance committee meeting.
Sure.
And that's as big as I can make it. So the first time that we had spoken and shown this out publicly, we had a reduction in tax rate of, it was around $2. I don't have it committed to my memory. As many of you have heard, the Irving property that came off the pilot was negotiated at a value of $22 million. And that's the value that we used when we did our first round of tax rate calculations. And since then, we've received updated information from the town assessor that says that $22 million is going to have the equalization rate of 73% applied to it. Therefore, it's really only being taxed on just over 16 million. And therefore, this is our best estimate now, showing that our tax rate's going down. What is the difference between 28.55 and 29.28? It's about 72 cents.
Yep, 72. Yep.
So it's going down 72 cents, which is a reduction of 2.48% from last year. But worth noting with that tax rate, and I get that it's about people's wallets, and we said that. So I want to say that people's wallets will show that their tax bill, as long as their assessment stayed the same, their tax bill will be lower this year than last year. So that's a key point for everybody to have on this call and to be able to share when people ask you. Is it as low as we had hoped it would be? No, but that's because of the 73% equalization rate, which will be taken care of once they've revalued the whole community. But when we compare to other places, and this is important, and again, I fully understand it's all about my bill that comes in the mail and how much I have to pay. I get that. But a lot of folks compare us to other communities, other towns. And if you're comparing us to towns, and I'm going to use some names because I looked them up as far as being fully valued at 100%. Like Fort Anne is at 100%, right? So when you try to compare us to Fort Anne, I don't have their tax rate, but when they all come out and people are comparing, if you were to use 100% valuation in Fort Edward, our tax on true would be about $20.84. So when people are comparing us versus Argyle and Fort Ann and Hudson Falls, those are communities that are valued at 100%. So when you're saying, oh my goodness, it costs $28.55 per thousand in Fort Edward, and it's only $19 someplace else. Well, if they're 100% valued, they're 19 and we're $20.84. So I think that's an important piece of information to get out to people. And again, I want to say it one last time. We totally understand it's about what your bill is, but it's also when you're comparing us to other communities and say, okay, then we have to do what we do. We have to use the right numbers when we compare. And the right number for us, putting the Irving pilot back in at just over 16 million, is about $20.84 tax on true.
Right.
So that's important to share.
Right. And as I said before, our tax effort is not the lowest, but it's the second to the lowest in Washington County. So.
In budget to budget, you're seeing that the change there, the same thing we talked about on the first sheet, the minus on the budget, and the levy. I'll say it again, the levy. I'm going to make it so that's all you can see. Maybe the levy, that 12.78%. I'll say it one last time. About 305,000 of that is because of the pilot. And the other 80,000 is because of carryover from not passing a budget last year. So if I hate to even say this, but if the budget were to fail, we would have $305,000 less in operating funds than we did in this current year. Because we're not going to get a pilot check, and we're not going to be able to raise that level of taxes from the Irving property.
So let's look at the forecast number 3.
Do forecast 3.
Yep.
So now I got to find that, Charlene.
Yep.
Give me 1 second to find it, folks.
Hopefully you have it. I'm pretty sure I dumped it in the finance folder.
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
In the finance committee for tonight?
Oh yeah, I put everything in there.
Yeah, I've got that. Yep.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I ran it off.
Property tax record. Oh, it's right. Yeah, it's just the same document.
Yeah.
Got it. Give me 1 second. It is coming to a screen near you. Should be popping up.
So I really like this report, and my other boards have always liked this report because it's just a really simple 1-page. Everything balances, all the numbers are there, and it's a nice comparison to all the major expenditure areas. So without getting into all the weeds, because especially I hate to get into the weeds for this year because we had a budget, we rolled it over from the prior year. It was good, it was solid, everything was in there, and then we cut the heck out of it, and we went out with another budget. And so it wasn't very pretty. And then that, failed. And so then we ended up with this really mutilated contingency budget that really, we've really had to do a lot of budget transfers and move things around. And then, of course, we got the CARES Act funding, and then COVID hit. And so much happened to this budget this year that to really look at those budget numbers, the weeds, what I call the weeds, that, last year's budget really, it's been adjusted and modified, and we've got a lot of federal grants, title grants and IDA grants that we put a lot of our expenses in there. We have the CARES Act, the ESSER, the GEAR. So it just, when you get into the weeds, things maybe don't compare so well. So, but if you look at it at a high level, I think it makes more sense. So you can see the levy, the change in the levy. And again, a lot of that is the pilot. A lot of that money, over 300,000 of that is the pilot. You can see the change in our other income. We really dived into other income and met with all the employees, the management and talked about the special ed students, talked about the shared services, talked about, okay, where is other income coming from and what can we plan on for next year? And we've gotten commitments on all of these other income items. So we really did a lot of work on that, and I thank all the staff at Fort Edward for helping me with that. And then our state aid projection. As you can see, it's down. And if you want to look at all the numbers in the state aid, you have a revenue spreadsheet, and it gives you every single state aid item. It gives you private, it gives you public excess cost, it gives you building aid, it gives you transportation aid, it gives you BOCES aid, gives you everything. So if you want to know the details, you have it all. But our state aid is down a little bit. Even though we did get extra foundation aid, we did get, what did I say, Dan, 2.84, I think it was. Yep. You have that also, it's in there. We did get more foundation aid, but we lost some of that other aid, some of the other federal aid that we were going to get, CARES 2. They've moved that into the F fund. So it's not that we're not going to get the money, but it's not in this general fund budget. So you have your community schools set aside out of your foundation aid. That's the same every year. That they didn't change that at all. Of course, that New York, that 400,000 that we got for 3 years, that's gone away now. We don't get that anymore. But I just left it there kind of as a little reminder that we don't get that 400,000 anymore. We got it for 3 years, but we haven't gotten it this year. We're not getting it next year, so we can't count on that anymore. And then so the pilot's gone away, and then so now the reserves. We're gonna clean up a little bit of our debt service reserve. We're gonna use that towards our debt. We're allowed to do that, and then we're gonna use a little bit of fund balance, and it's gonna give us a very nice budget, right around 11 million. Like I said, you know, I think Fort Edward, that's really where they are right now. That's their revenue sources. That's just kind of where it's going to fall for a while. You know, so we're really close to this year. You want to get down into your expenditures. We're saving. We're still saving a little bit in BOCES aid. We've done some creative things in the special ed department. We brought some students back. I think we've evaluated everybody. I think we've had some students age out. So we've done some other things. It's not just that. We've done some other things. We looked at the BOCES services very carefully. We did add 2 new services this year. We were careful to look at everything and make sure we're using the most cost-effective services with them, and that we understood all the services that we're buying and making sure that we're using them. We've got some savings there, got some savings in our debt service. Of course, a lot of that we found out in June last year after the budget was all done. You know, we didn't finance that last, you know, debt bond till June. Our capital project didn't finish till June. We didn't end up spending all of what was authorized by the voters. So all of that came into play. So we have a nice savings there. Fuels, I think we're going to have a little bit more cost just because I think the cost of fuel is going to go up. Let's see, transportation services. We looked at that real carefully. I think that number is accurate. Health insurance, we were able to factor in all those changes that happened in June and July, all those givebacks by our bargaining units. But we are able to really look at those. I worked with Michelle. We looked at everything. We looked at dental. We looked at the retirees. We looked at the contributions of our retirees and active employees, and we tried to really get an accurate number for health insurance this year. Not just put in there, oh, let's just estimate 5% increase over last year. No, I wanted a number, a real number, an accurate number. So we did a lot of work on that. And then you have your retirement is up, your ERS and TRS retirement rates are up. ERS is going from 14.6 to 16.2, and TRS is going from 9.53 to 9.8. But of course, your population changes, you know. So, but your tiers, people in the different tiers change, but the rate is going up. And another reason why, you know, we need to fund our ERS and TRS reserves in the future, because those are not going to go down right away. I think that we're on an up cycle right now, so we're going to continue to see those costs, those rates go up. So again, Social Security, you know, we added back in a lot of positions this year, so you're going to see higher costs for benefits across the board. Workers' comp, we talked about that. The rate went up significantly. We investigated. There were some claims, so we looked into that. Unemployment insurance, I feel comfortable with that number. We put all of our reserves in there and we used them all. So, but I do feel comfortable with that number for next year. Materials and supplies is down a little bit. Dan and Michelle looked that over and they felt comfortable with that number. Transfer to other funds, I left the same. That's for the cafeteria and the STAR program, the special ed programs, for 408 programs in the summertime. So we're up a little bit, and we'd have to get into to the weeds in order for me to tell you exactly what that is. But good, healthy budget, I think. And on top of this, we have some substantial funding coming from the CARES Act and what's the new one? The recovery, the coronavirus recovery. What's it called? Act?
American Restoration Plan.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you. So we have some good money that we have to use over 4 years. And there's going to be some restrictions, and it's going to be for learning recovery. So we're waiting at the end of this month. We're supposed to get the guidelines on that. But again, this money is for one time only. So we have to be very, very careful about how we use it, what we use it for. We don't want to use it for operations. So we want to learn it for learning recovery and maybe those one-time things that we haven't been able to afford that maybe, might last for a while.
So I'm going to jump in on that one too, Charlene. Yep. And I know, and that's separate from our budget, but since Charlene brought it up, that those federal funds, I will reiterate exactly what Charlene just said. We want to be cautious that we don't have our school running on operations running on funds that we know are going away. As the people on this board know, that is, I will say, I believe that's part of the situation that we're in, and we don't want to create that again for anybody going forward. So the one-time purchases or things that we know are going to phase out over 3 years, like recovery learning. That's an easy example for us to use. We're trying to recover from the pandemic. Barring another pandemic, we're hoping to be able to do what we have to do to help kids recover from that over the next couple of years, not over the next 15 years. Although certainly that remains to be seen exactly what kids are going to need coming back from this. But I wanted to make sure that I said that piece in here as well.
Dan, that can be used for debt reduction savings too, correct?
So we have not seen the rules yet. For the specific rules.
Okay, I just read that. I didn't know how true that was, because I knew they do strongly suggest no regular operations, but they did debt reduction, savings, capital projects. I just read that today, and I think else there. Yeah, that was from the restoration.
And I can give another easy example for everybody, and I haven't even mentioned this to Charlene, and it's just an example. Bus 20 is 10 years old. It may only have 40,000 miles on it, but it's getting to the end of its usable life. Maybe a good purchase, if it's allowable with the CARES Act or the rescue money, is replace bus 20 so you have a spare hanging around. And again, things have been going through my mind as we wait for the rules to come out that would serve the district. They're one-time expenditures that would serve the district well for many years. Is what I'm trying to put in the back of my mind once we have the rules and have to get this plan together, because Charlene and I spoke about it, and Charlene let me know, because she's paying closer attention. It looks like the plan has to be in place by July 1 and submitted in the portal. So we'll have some work to do on that moving through the next couple of months for sure.
Dan, just a couple of points of clarification, and I totally agree with what you had to say it, because it can't be used for anything that's going to be recurring for sure, since it's short term. The other questions I have, 2 questions about the budget that's up there. One, the $11,090,000. That's with everything included that we wanted to add back, but that's not everything, right? So that's where we are now. But that's not where we were. That's where we are now, correct?
Yeah. So if you want, I can, and I probably should in this meeting, just run down through our list really quickly. That allows for us to restore pre-K. That allows for us to restore an additional section of kindergarten, and it's an additional section of 4th grade, an additional section of 5th grade. It allows us to restore 0.67 ELA, 0.67 social studies, 0.67 earth science, 0.8 math, 0.67 music, 0.67 health, and then athletics and extracurriculars.
Right. Okay. So that's great, because that was our wish list, and that was what we want to get in here. So I just wanted to make the distinction that that's what we wanted. It's not where we were before. There's certain things that aren't being replaced, but that's where we are now. The second question I had is the other. So I understand that's some things to be determined, but do you have a kind of curve on where that can go? I mean, 740,000, is it going to go above that, or is that a high estimate?
No, that's the number. I mean, that is what it is.
Yeah.
And the detail, I mean, we can get into the detail if you want, but that's mostly contracted services that go in that code. So.
Okay. So the increase is 238 on last year.
Yep.
Okay.
But last year, I mean, we had to cut a lot of stuff. So
understood. Yeah.
A lot of things just fall into that number. So.
Yeah.
I got a couple questions too, Charlene.
Yep.
Oh, actually, probably Dan. From going from forecast 2 to forecast 3, we got an increase of, I don't know, $80,000 in the BOE services. So that was from the last one we looked at in March. This one, can you give me a scoop on that?
Charlene can, but we did talk about it. We had a couple of items we were still waiting on. We gave forecast 2.
And forecast 2, I didn't have the new rates on everything.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the service request. I got that Friday. Okay. I had just gotten it. I hadn't even.
So something new. We're just what we're already attributed paying. Okay, that's
so
right.
I want to say one other piece about that, James, before you move on to the second one. But you'll notice the levy didn't change at all, because we applied fund balance and we applied other revenue to offset that increase in cost, and from forecast 2 to forecast 3, levy stays the same. So that would be cool.
Right. That answers the question why 5,001 came from last time we looked at from the appropriated fund balance. We added 5,001, so that was to offset part of those BOCES costs and the other things you talked about. And one more thing, Dan. So thanks, Dan.
And waiting for answers from the ladies at the school as to confirming that students were returning, or that we were going to be continuing to share one of our staff members. So until I got a confirmation, I did not want to include the revenue.
Right. We're not adding anything. We're just fulfilling services and paying for what we should be paying for.
But once I knew, and then I knew the BOCES cost went up, then I had the revenue to cover it. So it was just as the information came in.
All right. And one last question. You talked about the other income, which is up about what, 85,000. Are we sure because we had 11,218 last time, or 11,218. Now we're up to 96. So we're sure the other income is there.
All confirmed.
Okay.
I mean, the schools could pull out, they could change their mind, but they were all, we got written commitments from
last word. That's definitive. They're in. Yep. Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Was there anything else, Charlene, that you wanted to go through? We're at about 5 of 6 now, so we're good for time.
Not unless
any other board members have questions?
Not unless they saw something that they needed to look at.
So I'm going to give, while you guys are mulling it over. So the summary of our budget is, this budget reduces taxes and restores programs for our children. It reduces taxes and restores programs for our children. I'm proud of the work that Charlene has done and that the board has done. And I'm proud of all the people the concessions that were made by the employees that work here. I'm proud of what the community did to provide opportunities for our kids this year with the items that we had to cut out of our budget and are still providing. But I got to tell you, I am very hopeful that folks understand this budget reduces their tax bill and provides those things that our kids need. These aren't wants. We're putting back in needs. We unfortunately had to take away some things they needed in this school year, and we did the best we could. Everybody worked hard together to do the best we could, and we're continue to do it through the end of the school year. So that's the summary. It reduces your tax bill, and it provides things that our kids, Fort Edward kids, need to be successful in school and in life beyond school.
Right, and this budget is based on every student being back in school September 1st, because that is the goal.
No, yeah, that's important too. Yeah, and that's the perfect way to put it, Dan. Put stuff back. It improves what we had last year, and it doesn't add a burden for sure as far as taxes go. So.
Yep.
So if we're good on the budget, I can pull up the normal monthly documents. I have 2 of them queued to go. I have the cash flow report ready to go. But I don't want to cut off the budget discussion because that's the thing you gotta vote on tonight, board members.
Yep.
We're good. Okay, I'm gonna switch over, hopefully to the right one. So that's the cash. So I got to make that bigger. There's no way Tom can see that. All right, so it's a little bit bigger than the screen, but I'll do my best to move
It's
it back.
in the folder, right, Dan? It's in the folder, right?
Yeah, I'm pulling all these right out of your folder.
Yeah, but this is through February, and I didn't get time. I did put up your March bank reconciliations, your treasurer's report, all of those. We did put those up for you. Norma had them done, so we went ahead and put them up for you. But I didn't get a chance to do the fund balance projection or the cash flows. Obviously, I was working on budget and budget documents board for the budget. So the cash flow, we're looking good. It's looking healthy. It's not still quite where I want it to be for year end, but we'll see. I've tried to correct March, April, and May, and June, anticipating that the state aid, will be at 100%, because for a while we were kind of tweaking it, thinking that we were, going to get withheld 20%. And as different things have come in that I wasn't familiar with, or that I found out about as they come in, I've been putting them in here for you. So if an E-rate came in and it's in a future month, I tried to put it in here for you, or anything else. So this is a pretty good estimate of where we're going to belong, or where we're going to end for the end of the year. Maybe some of the state aid in June might not come in until July, but it gives us a good idea. It's a running report. You get it every month, and this one's through February. So gives you a good idea where we might begin here.
Yeah. Looks a lot better than it could have. So yeah, that's great.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, if you remember, 10 months ago we were 8 months ago we were concerned we'd be borrowing.
Yeah.
This month to get us through the end of the year, and thank goodness we are not having to do that.
Yep.
Right. These numbers are in black, not just because that's the print. It's because that's where they are, which is a good thing.
Yep. But as you can see at the bottom, I mean, there are many months, your expenditures exceed your revenue. Actually, your cash disbursements exceed your cash receipts. So the months that that you have excess cash receipts, you have to make sure there's enough to cover the other months. So you always have to. We don't really want to have a little negative there in August again. We don't want that ending cash balance to be a negative. We don't want to ever see a negative down there, especially if we don't have reserves.
Yeah.
Any questions on that document?
No.
And I think I had the appropriations for February.
Yep.
And again, these are in your packets. I'll do February 1st, and then March. If anybody has questions about anything specific, or Sharon, if there's anything you want to highlight on them.
I don't think so. We cleaned up a lot of the negatives. We did a lot of budget transfers. You'll see at least 2 reports in there for budget transfers. I did some early in April, early in March, and then I did some late in March. So we're really looking at all the F fund, the grants, making sure we have all the people in the right codes. Like I said, we had to add a lot of new codes for gear and ESSER for the CARES Act, which was in the general fund this year. They've moved it into the special aid fund, out of the operating budget and into the special aid fund. So it truly will be tracked and be supplemental next year, which will be much easier for everybody. Still a grant, still have to apply for it, but it's not going to muddy up the budget like this year. But we did have to add, you'll see ESSE. We had to add in all these codes and track all those people, and it's all grant funding. And so, it's just a lot of work on everybody's part, especially payroll, Michelle. And so we've been working through that and making sure that what we're putting in those codes is only what's in the grant. And so she's got to split all those people across multiple codes, and it's a lot of work. So we've been cleaning that up, and I think we finally, the end of March, I think you'll see that report. All those negatives have been cleaned up. So
can I ask you one question, Charlene?
Yeah.
Code 2630, the computer assisted instruction.
2630 on any particular report?
March. Yeah, the appropriation ending with March 31st.
All right, let me see. I should have that right here. I gave you too much.
Yeah, hold on. I'll get it on the screen too.
Too much. I know I have it here.
It's in there. I got a copy.
James, what's the code again, James? 26
2630.
You show me because I got too many.
There it is. Computer assisted instruction.
Yeah, see how that we got available 60,000. I'm just wondering, is that 60,000 going to be used? Is that because of what's being done in the class with the kids not being there, or is that?
I think that was
because it's kind of
over budgeted for that code. Well, actually, we did a lot of cuts. We did a lot of the BOCES bill, if you remember right. Dan really met with BOCES and really did a lot of tweaking to that whole service request. So
okay.
But that
I see 20 or 30% still available with only a couple months left. I'm just kind of
no. I mean, I don't touch it. If I don't need it, I don't touch it. I just leave it there. I mean, less budget transfers I have to make, the better. We only transfer to cover negative balances. So if there's money there, there's money there. That'll be part of what we'll be using to fund our reserves.
Right. We're not anticipating anything coming up that's going to take a chunk out of that 60. It's just not. It just wasn't expended. Wasn't used.
Not that I'm aware of. I know that the most recent bill that was paid, I think he might have paid the March 15th. I don't know if he paid the April 15th bill. I'd had to look. But if there was anything new on the new bill, obviously it would use some of that. So I can't say that that's all available. I have to wait until I see the next BOCES bill. And that BOCES bill changes because as Dan either requests a service or requests something, sometimes the billing is delayed. And especially for a cap region, I know the billing is like a month behind. So.
Okay. Yeah, it just jumps. When it's 20, 30% not expended yet. I'm just kind of curious. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Again, we did a lot. Like I said, that last year's bill, if you get into the weeds, so much happened, during budgeting, and so much happened late that, it is what it is.
No, believe me, I'm happy there's 60,000 still there. I don't want to spend if we don't have to. I just don't know if it's a mistake or anything.
Oh my! But just so you know, that can disappear very quickly if a service is needed, for a student, for a child, and and you have to go to BOCES for the service. It can disappear very quickly. So.
Okay.
Maybe not in that code, but.
Okay.
So this is the second one, the March one. I didn't know if anybody, James certainly had that question there. If anybody had any questions on that one, again, it was in your packets.
Yeah, you should see
in the
that
folder.
A lot less negative, so a lot more cleaned up. So.
I will stress that it has been fantastic having these appropriations reports with all the columns filled in. And I think I see Todd Tyler on there. I know your time draws short, but this is one that you brought up multiple times about seeing these in a more complete fashion. So
yeah. And I give you the A fund, the cafeteria fund, and the F fund. Even though I give you your financial reports, I waited on the F fund a little bit till we got it cleaned up, but I like you to see everything. Even though we give you a profit and loss for the cafeteria, all the detail is there. So, your profit and loss for your cafeteria takes your revenues and your expenditures and puts them together for you. So you're not having to look at the appropriation report and the revenue report. It's together. That's a nice thing. F fund, you don't have to worry about the F fund. You don't have to do a consolidated report for the F fund because they're equal. your expenditures and your revenue and the F fund are always equal, so you don't have to worry about it. So
I popped up the cafeteria profit and loss for this is the March one.
yep, we're doing okay. We're not doing too bad. You know, it's looking pretty good. Do you have the end of it? Can you see the second?
Sorry.
Page? Can you see the total? I just want to make sure.
The bottom or the right hand side? Bottom.
Yeah, I just want to see where we're at. Is that it? I want to see mine so I can make sure. We're in the black. Make sure
We're
here.
in the black. It says
Gross profit. That's gross profit. Second page. Second page, please. I don't want to think.
Second page. Sorry.
9,000. So we're 9,000. So we are in the black, right, as of the end of March. So that's good because we weren't sure we were going to end up in the black for the cafeteria. So, and we did fund the general fund, the taxpayers approved, covering if we happen to have a loss. Plus we, I think we have some carryover losses from previous years. So I made sure to put enough in the budget so we can clean up that. You don't want a negative fund balance in your cafeteria fund, and that's what we have. So we've got to clean up that old stuff. But it looks like we might end up in the black this year. We'll see. This month wasn't as good, but we'll see.
And Eric, who works with us from Cap Region BOCES, and Joy Glass, that is our local person, who's in charge of the cafeteria now. They've done a nice job getting some more deliveries out there and working together on that. And certainly, if we're able to have a summer recovery program through those federal funds that we talked about earlier, I just want to let the board know that part of that, and maybe hopefully Charlene isn't hearing this for the first time, we're trying to run the cafeteria this summer as well. So we are making arrangements to do that. Eric will be on a webinar. I think it's next week, either the end of this week or next week, on what he has to do. But our summer feeding application runs through the end of this summer, the one we're currently running on. So okay. The biggest piece is already set. At least that's what I was informed.
Okay.
So we're trying to do it. It'll all depend if we can run that summer program or not. That'll depend on the rules surrounding the federal funds.
Right. Yeah. And I am so happy with this new service we have because these guys are experts at this, and this is their only, this is what they focus on, and they know the program. And every time I ask them something, done. And, well, do you know what this? Oh, I already did it. Have you filed it? Already done. I'm like, oh my God, I love you guys.
Yeah, I'll mention her name too. Sue Frank is one of the women that we contact down there, and she's fantastically responsive.
And it's so nice, but it shows you that when you have people that can focus on something, what they know, how you can turn a lemon into lemonade. Because our cafeteria was a lemon, and now it's lemonade, and it's going to get better. So it's just hard to be a jack of all trades, so sometimes you need an expert out there helping you with something, and it's worth it when you find the right match, the right fit.
Dan, can I ask a couple things? Might as well, I guess. If you're working on having lunches and breakfast at school for the summer, can you keep me abreast of that? Because I'm also, since Rec's we will be operational again this summer, and we have lunches there too. I don't want to duplicate. If we can offset, if we can help each other, because I'll have to know what's going on in your summer program too, so I can coordinate that with our kids. I don't want the kids to lose any opportunities anywhere.
Yeah.
So make sure we walk hand in hand so we know what's going on.
Absolutely. And so conceptually, I'll tell you what it looks like to me. When the kids come in, they get their breakfast. But when we do that second, we'll call it the lunch. That lunch is served kind of on the way out. So we're trying to make it so that when we have young people come to programs here at school, if we're able to do that recovery learning or enrichment for them, that they aren't going to miss out on rec programs. And I know you and I have talked about it, just the two of us, but I wanted to share that with everybody on the call because we don't want to compete with the rec because we don't want either group to lose. But James has already let me know that the school programs will lose. I like a challenge, James, but we'll just work together on it. But that's that the lunch would be maybe a bag lunch or something they can take on the run, so they could jump on a bus or walk down to the park with the lunch and eat it down there while they're trying to get ready for whatever program you folks have going on.
Yeah, I don't want to duplicate anything. And plus, I have services that I use here, and if we don't have to avail ourselves of them, and we can use that, if a lot of kids can go up there, that'd be great. All right, let me go. I got one more question on the report. Curiosity: the meals served in March are 30% higher than any other month during the year. Is that because of the outpouring to get information out to everybody, whether it was the media information, or was there a reason why that was a demonstrative increase?
That's a great question. So I don't have a specific answer, but I'll talk about some of the things that we did. We started delivering meals to people who were home. We're doing virtual instruction only. The Cap Region BOCES actually supplied a van so that could occur. So Joy started doing that. Previous to that, Paul was doing that. Once Joy took over, we had more people willing to get them delivered, willing to come up here and pick them up. Additionally, there's just more days in March, right? We know that.
But I'm talking about even go back to January. And I mean, it's in December. I looked at them all. It's 30% more than the next highest.
And we've got more kids in school. So we were down, my report today, I don't have it from me. I think there's 83 full remote learners today. And if I were to go back into the months previous to March, I would be around 125. So that's a big difference, especially when they're elementary students who are, I'll use the term captive audience for breakfast and lunch, or willing participants. That's probably a better word, where juniors and seniors have open campus and they might go to McDonald's. Our little guys are having the meals that we're making here. They've also, I think they've done a good job with the menu this year and trying to, they had an appetizer platter last Friday. I didn't have it, so I won't tell you it was good, but it looked good on the menu. Today was a popcorn chicken bowl, which is one of my favorites. They're putting out, I would say, a better product for our kids, which was one of the goals that we had. And we're not where we want to be yet for the product, but part of the challenge is that we're cooking it downstairs and bringing it up and feeding it in the cafeteria. I know Eric really feels strongly that if we can get kids back in the cafeteria setting next year, closer to the kitchen, they can provide an even better product for our kids. So we'll be working to try to do that.
Okay.
And I would just look at a better number to look at is your average meals per day. And we've been averaging between 190 low in October and 222 high in March. So if you look at the average meals per day, then it kind of factors out that how many days in the month. So it's, you see the line where it says average meals per day. So we started in September 220, October 190, went to 193, 207, 204, and then 220, and then 222.
Gotcha.
So it's a better line to look at because it factors out how many days are in the month.
Okay, thank you.
And that number actually matches up more with the number of kids who've come back in. Then we had the treasurer's report. Let me pull it back up again.
Are we late? Are we okay?
We're quarter after. We're in good shape.
Okay.
Treasurer's report for February. And then is there a March one in there too, Charlene?
There is. Yep. There is.
So here's the February. We'll start with this one. There's one of those nice payments that we get. But if you look at the down, the payment of $20,500 from the Fort Ann School District.
Yep, that's the first half. Yep. March is huge because that's when all our state aid came in. So,
anything on February?
No.
And I'll bump over to the other. March. There it is.
As you can see, we got a lot of money in March. We got a lot of those 20% that were held, and we got our homeless aid in, or at least a first installment of it. We will see more for that. We got our summer aid in for our summer school. Got all that filed. We don't typically get that in and reported till February because we don't get the BOCES reports, the final cost reports for summer, or the summer one till February. So we try to get that done right away, and stack the transportation. So that's all stack, and it is a lot of extra work, and a lot of work, and Norma does a lot of that. So I get kudos to her because she knows that stack software a lot better than I do. But we try to meet all the deadlines for that. So one thing I want you to know in the budget this year, they usually, I mean, the state owes school districts billions of dollars in back state aid. If you don't file something by a deadline, or you change something, and so then they owe you this money, but you might wait 20 years for it. So anyways, one of the things in this year's legislative budget is they did not fund that. They did not cut it. The governor wanted to cut it and say, oh, we don't owe the schools any of that money. Just wipe the slate clean. They're never going to get it. Too bad. Well, they usually fund about 18 million or something. Well, they didn't fund anything. So nobody's going to get their back state aid. But that's why we always try to meet the deadline on everything. Because if you're going to wait, you can wait 20 years. And it's difficult. It's difficult to meet all those deadlines. It really is. And sometimes it means an evening or a weekend or something. But it's in the best interest of the school district, so we do it. So.
And I wanted to point out a couple, maybe 2 months ago, I think it was James, asked about the revenue from the leases was low on one of the documents we were looking at. You can see New Meadow paid almost 62,000 over there, and that was because we were working on a contract, and finally I was able to finish that with them, and they immediately caught up for the whole year.
Right, and I had Norma go in and post the receivables, so a lot of that is she's learning, and so I'm like, okay, well, I know we have revenue coming in. I know we don't have a contract. Let's estimate it. Let's base it on last year, and let's get it in there and book it. Because we get that receivable in there, then you see the revenue. So even if we don't have the cash, you see the revenue, and it's appropriate. Sometimes, it just takes us a while to catch up, but we're getting there. Yeah. We're trying to have everything reflected so that things, make sense. Because we know you guys are looking at it, and we love you guys looking at it because you keep us on our toes. So,
any questions on that one? I think that was the last one we had on our list to look at.
Yep.
I think so. I mean, unless they want to look at the fund balance projection. I mean, that kind of, I didn't do March yet, but I did February.
We can give it about 5 more minutes. Fund balance as of February. 1 minute. We can give it a couple minutes. I just want to make sure I can transition over to all the documents I need for the next meeting.
Yep. Just wanted you to see this so you can actually see the other revenue. It's all detailed there for you. Got a nice little yellow box with everything there for you. I left it open for you. I usually close it, but I left it open. So it gives you all that other revenue, that comes in, all those things that we had to call about and check on and say, well, are we going to get this next year or not? And is it confirmed? Is it solid? Are they definitely, is that revenue going to be there next year? So like I told you before, I always want revenue to be within 2%. So if revenue is a little about 2% low, that's okay. You don't want to over project revenue. And then your expenses, you want your expenses to be within 2%. Year's not over yet. We're at 9, but we could have some expenses that we have not booked the encumbrance yet, or we've got expenses that'll come in that we weren't aware of, or I just haven't seen the bill yet and it hasn't gotten put in the system yet. So we're close, but a good budget, you want to over project your expenses by 2 and under project your revenue by 2, and that's fair to the taxpayers. So, and that comes from Dr. Rick Timms, a long-term retired superintendent and financial advisor. So I always try to follow his rule. So.
Charlene, the only thing I couldn't figure out is you got under the actual expectation, the 2021 budget, revenue to expenses. See where I am?
Go ahead. Just tell me a number.
1,176,832.
Yep.
I kept figuring out. I got 1,176,831.
Oh, come on!
I hate to give that extra dollar up.
It's rounding.
No, I don't have rounding here. I got straight
Rounding
numbers.
things.
Just trying to save us a buck.
Hey,
That's how thorough I look at this thing.
if that's all it takes to make this thing rock and roll this year and next year, I got a pocket full of dollar bills. I'm happy to hand them to whoever I have to.
The accountant in me couldn't find the dollars, so now
Checking on that.
Just kidding, Charlene. I told you when we first got on, I appreciate the information you give us is great. So I can go through and figure out most everything I need to figure out. So I shouldn't have many questions. So kudos to you because I appreciate it.
Great.
But just so you know, I do go through it all.
Wonderful. I love it because, more than one set of eyes, like I told you a long time ago, I'm not perfect. I'm willing to fix my mistakes. I work very hard to make sure things are accurate. But if I make mistakes, please let me know and I'll fix it immediately. So.
Yeah, we'll waive that one.
Any board members? Any board members have any questions or anything like that?
No, thank you.
I'll see you on the other side, right?
Yeah, well, we'll end the meeting. So the summary of this, the budget piece anyways, I'm going to say this again in the public session, is our budget reduces spending, reduces taxes, and restores programs that our students need. I'll leave it at that, and I'll see you on the other side.